What is up guys, this is Wim and today I will show you how to make the sounds of ARTBAT our space. Now before we jump into the tutorial, I want to point out that this is not a one-to-one perfect remake. I just wanted to focus on showing you how to create this fat and gritty analogic sounding ARTBAT sounds. So let's jump into the kick and bass. So the kick I actually sampled from the track and just cut away a little bit of the high end here, as you can see. It sounds like this. So if you want to create an ARTBAT style track, it's really important to find a really nice and fat sounding kick. Let's have a look at the bass, which is a little bit more interesting. As you can see, we have quite some processing going on here. Let's turn the effects off for now and let's see how that sounds. So we have a simple patch here in Diva, just loaded up one of my presets, but the effects here really take it to the next level. Now first we have a simple equalizer loaded up, just cutting away a little bit of the low frequencies. We don't need them that much because we already have quite a punchy kick over here, so let's just get rid of that. Then I have a compressor, you already saw that in one of my tutorials. It's the Brit Presser from Analog Obsession. Here I applied actually a little bit of limiting and also a bit of compression. So this compressor just really helps pushing the bass a little bit more in the foreground. And compression is definitely an important factor if you want to nail that fat and punchy ARTBAT sound. After that we have another one of my favorite plugins ever. This is a decapitator. It's a distortion and saturation unit where you have actually 5 different modes over here. 99% of the time I stick with the A. Sometimes I use the E for drums, but the A is really giving this nice analog and gritty feeling. Let's see how this effect sounds. Now because the decapitator is changing the frequencies quite a lot and also adding some sub again, I have another equalizer over here to really fit it in the track. And we have a little bit of ping pong delay over here. So this one is just filling in the gaps a little bit. So then we have actually another equalizer with some funny curves. If you're wondering why I'm using so many equalizers sometimes in the chain, is because I most of the time don't tweak the sound in solo mode like we hear it now. Because if you guys want to have a really nice mix, you need to stop using the solo mode. So if you play the whole track, it just becomes way more effective using the equalizer and you will actually hear what frequencies your whole track is lacking. So let's play that all together. So over here you just see one of my sidechain racks, which I actually already explained in my previous video. Let's have a look at the drums. So for the snare we actually have 2 different layers. The first one is this sample I found here. Just use a little bit of equalizing, and then I found this loop over here which sounds like this. Really nice, punchy and gritty snare. But the most important here is what we did on this snare group over here. And now this is exactly what I mean with not using the solo mode too much. Because if you would have used the solo mode, you probably would have not come up with exactly this processing chain. But the way I used this was listening to the track in full mode and just tweaking the equalizer a little bit and also adding this really nice and long reverb over here. So then we have a simple 16th hi-hat, not even any velocity changes going on over here. We only have a little bit of random to just help with that analog feeling over here. Now the most important here is of course the equalizer. Let's see how it sounds without. So you see without it, it just sounds like a classical hi-hat. But if you carve out those high frequencies and add a little bit of resonance over here, it just sounds way better in the track. But guys, again, the most important of the drums is actually, again, the group processing. First, again, we have the decapitator this time turned up quite high because the input signal is quite low. We use the A mode again, and actually we made the sound a little bit brighter because this A mode is taking a little bit away of the high frequencies, and we just give this back over here. This saturator is not only giving some drive to the signal, but also it is compressing the sounds the more you push this drive up. So this is already the first good step to achieving those fat drums. After that, we have even a little bit more compression going on. As I told you guys, I really like to use this compressor by Arturia for the drums. So we tweak the threshold quite hard and we have it at the rate of 1 to 3. Also, the attack and release time is relatively short. So let's see how that affects the sound. And after that, we just have another EQ to carve out some of those resonating frequencies. Let's see how that sounds in the track. So first we have this resonance lead over here, which is a really simply melody. I don't know if it's exactly the one ARTBAT is using, but the most important is of course how we made this sound. Now I actually started off with one of my presets over here and just tweaked it a little bit. As you can see, we are just using one oscillator from this in the digital oscillators. We're using the saw wave, but the reason why it sounds so fat is because we have the multi-mode turned all the way up. Let's see how that sounds if we don't use that. Sounds quite nice, but it gets way fatter if you turn this multi-mode up quite a bit. Now what is also adding to the fatness of the sound is that we use this in the stack mode over here. So we actually have 2 times this oscillator playing, just slightly detuned. And also the way you can get the sound like this, for example, in stereo is using the pan mod over here. And then as you can see, we have mapped it to the voice map. Let's have a look what is happening here. Here the voice map, we have turned it all the way to the left and all the way to the right. So that way you can split your sound into stereo. Now the processing this time isn't actually too complex. We have again some EQing, which is actually really important in that sound. Let's turn off those effects. So you see we already have those sub-frequencies in the bass and the kick. So of course we don't need them here. So we actually wanted to emphasize this frequency over here, which is adding to the resonance filter of the diva. After that, we have the same compressor again applied, a little bit of limiting and also some compression. Really guys, I can't recommend the plugins from Analog Obsession enough. You can get like 20 or 30 effect plugins for only paying €5 one time. So then again, we have a little bit of ping pong delay going on, nothing too important, and of course my sidechain rack again. And of course this sound develops its full beauty again if you actually automate the filter frequency. So here at the beginning you have a very subby sound. Just very subtly moving in here, and then when you turn this filter up, it sounds really nice and aggressive. So ARTBAT is adding another very distorted and fat sounding synth sound on top of the resonance lead. Let's see how that sounds. Quite an interesting sound. Let's turn off the effects first and have a look at the diva patch. Again, I started off with one of my presets here and I just did a little bit of tweaking. So we have again a saw wave, which is in multi-mode, so it sounds nice and fat. Then we actually have another oscillator just slightly mixed in here a little bit. Also really important if you want to get this fat analog sound in diva, use a little bit of feedback. Sometimes you can use more, sometimes just a little bit is perfect. For me, this one was working about here. Now what is further adding some interest to the sound is that we used a little bit of LFO on the cutoff filter. And we actually also animated the rate of that LFO over here. This is something you can hear in the original too. So it starts off very slow over here and then the LFO is picking up in speed over here. I hope you guys can hear it. Let's jump into the effects. So we actually have a similar effect chain going on over here. First, we add that nice decapitated distortion again, this time turned quite far up, and we're also boosting a little bit of the high frequencies so it actually punches through the mix. So you can see without the drive of the decapitator, it just sounds like a normal diva patch or just some plugin you would use. But with the decapitator, it just gives this fat and nice analog distortion. After that, of course, we need to EQ the sound a little bit again. We're boosting some frequencies around the 1K mark and of course cutting out the low frequencies again. Then we need to compress the sound to make it a bit more fat. And of course, to make it groove a little bit more, again, one of my sidechain racks. So yeah guys, this is already it for this tutorial. I hope you learned something and I'll see you in the next one.